Welcome back. You're watching live from Paris on France 24. It's time now for Media Watch, when we find out what people are talking about in the French press and on the websites and the blogs as well. Good evening to James Creedon.
Good evening indeed.
Now, let's start with these insults flying back and forth over the English Channel, or La Manche, depending on which side of it you're on. Nicolas Sarkozy says David Cameron's nothing more than an obstinate child.
That's right. Now, that emerged in this rag here. Well, it's not a rag. It's actually a very well-written satirical paper that comes out once a week. Sarkozy downgrades Cameron. Downgrades his notes, so they're using the whole AAA rating. It's the Canard Enchaîné. So it came out yesterday, and in the past 24 hours, the British papers have been picking up on it. And essentially, what happened was Nicolas Sarkozy was speaking to his own party, and he said, "Oh, that David Cameron, he's been behaving like a gamin buté, an obstinate kid over Europe." So what happened? Only the Daily Mail. Let's have a look at the computer. They heard, what's this? People speaking ill of our David? Well, that's not on. That's not fair. So Cameron behaved like an obstinate kid at Brussels summit. Sneered Sarkozy, says the Daily Mail.
He's been accused of sneering by Nigel Farage as well, I heard earlier this week.
A lot of sneering
often attributed to him
by David, or by Nicolas Sarkozy. So obviously the Daily Mail not at all impressed at this latest of insults by Nicolas Sarkozy, because of course last Friday, look at this headline: Le Snub, the moment Sarkozy dodged Cameron's handshake with a swift body swerve. So they accuse Nicolas Sarkozy in Brussels of, if you can have a look at this series of photos here, of essentially snubbing Nicolas Sarkozy. Now, actually, what emerged afterwards, the press looked into it. 3 minutes beforehand, they'd actually shaken hands. So it wasn't a snub, it was just they didn't want to shake hands every 3 minutes, right? And it's worth pointing out the Daily Mail is also the paper that compared Hitler's face to a house in Swansea.
Yes, I remember that one, and another great Media
I spoke
Watch.
about that last week. I mean, every opportunity to bring it up. In any case...
It was a slow news day, I think.
I think it was. It's not really fair to bring that up every time, but I will anyway. Now, The Guardian, for their part, have said...
Left-leaning newspaper.
Left-leaning newspaper. They're like, well, is Cameron an obstinate kid? I think this is a pretty fair question. I think we should look into this. What do our readers think? So they actually asked their readers.
I can imagine.
And Guardian readers, 57% of them thought, actually, yes, he is an obstinate kid.
I'm surprised it's not more, actually.
I thought it would be going through the roof.
And there's a rather nice cartoon you've got on the front of Charlie
That's
Hebdo,
right.
which confirms relations aren't really at their best, are they?
That's right. There was a tweet that I was going to show as well. I don't know if I actually put it up there, about how this is the end of the Entente Cordiale. But let's have a look at Charlie Hebdo. This, I suppose, is a new low in British-French relations, really, isn't it?
It is.
And what you see here is well, who wants the English in Europe anyway? And they never really got the English-British distinction, so, there's no point. And there you see a particularly unattractive lady and a guy with an umbrella. So I suppose he's the city banker, and she's just, I don't know, a regular Brit.
Oh,
Very unfair, really.
I rather like the tattoo on her arm. I won't say what it says.
Now, do you know what Beatrice, one of our colleagues here, said?
That, though.
That's true, you don't. You definitely don't. And do you know what one of our colleagues, Beatrice, said? She said, well, at least the English are a bit rock and roll. They're a bit rock and roll on that front page. If it was the French, they'd be in berets and onions and garlic, and it would be a lot less sort of rock and roll sexy.
We're certainly not as chic as the French ladies, I'll give them that. All right, let's move on to the big story of the day. Of course, Jacques Chirac, the former president, a hero to many people, a veteran politician here, and now he's got a criminal record.
It's pretty extraordinary stuff. It has been the big story here in France today. And if we have a look at what politicians have been tweeting, because on social media as well, it's been lots of reaction. Eva Joly, she's a presidential candidate, Green Party, former judge, anti-corruption candidate. And of course, it's a chance for her to say, told you so. We need to look into corruption. I was right all along. Elect me next year. So she's essentially saying, yes, a former president should be treated the same as everyone else. Another person being a bit of a smart aleck, said, oh, he might appeal, except he could forget. Because, of course, there was a big issue throughout the trial of Jacques Chirac giving in sick notes, saying he had memory issues. And everybody was laughing at that because he had just released the second tome of his memoirs, which was about that thick. Yeah. So obviously he could remember some things, but not others, So in any case, others are saying, let's have a look at this, he could lose his Legion of Honour, which would be a massive humiliation. And Atlantico, that's a right-leaning website, they're saying, look, this is such a humiliating, inconsequential decision. It didn't really need to happen.
All right, okay, let's We've had more reaction to that, have we, as well?
Well, that's right. There's been photos on Libération too. Let's have a look at some of the photos just very quickly, a run through his career, because he was Mayor of Paris when this happened. So all these old photos have been pulled out from his time as Mayor of Paris. The first one that we're going to have a look at here is when he was just elected. He was actually the first Mayor of Paris, because at the time the French state was afraid of a powerful kind of Paris, I suppose, person. Here, that's with Liz Taylor, and here, less glamorously, he's buying ham. And then at the end, And this is the year before he was elected mayor of Paris. So there you go. Now, just before we go, I'd like to point out a kind of bizarre moment. Roselyne Bachelot, she is the social affairs minister.
Right.
Let's have a look at these pictures. We've got some pictures here because what happened was she was at a conference for the handicapped. Now, there was no sign language interpreter, so they pulled somebody out of the audience and said, oh, you'll do, you speak a little bit of sign language. Turns out the person spoke sign language like a toddler would speak English or French, like really, 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 really badly, really basic, and was trying to translate stuff like Luc Chatel, the education minister.
Mitt Romney speaking French.
Exactly, just disastrous. Now, I don't know if we have those pictures, but in any case, what they did is that there's a video online of a person who actually speaks. There's the poor lady, Madame Dubois. She's actually
she's a bit of a beginner in sign language.
She's a beginner. So what somebody did is they actually they dubbed what she was actually saying, and it's in France. It's making a lot of waves anyway. Instead of Luc Chatel, she was saying Luc Chateau, Luc Castle. You know. Didn't make any sense.
Well, it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. It's not.
I certainly can't do it.
Won't even try.
All right, James Creedon, many thanks.
Thanks, Laura.
Indeed. Well, now it's time for web news, and Cambridge University has put Isaac Newton's manuscripts online. No less than 4,000 pages for those eager to dig in. But we start tonight in China, where villagers are still protesting against what they say is land theft.